Hello, everybody. Thank you for listening to the Healthy Project podcast. I'm your host, Corey Dion Lewis. Before we get into the episode today, I want to give a shout out to our sponsor. Our sponsor for today's episode is GoodFeed. GoodFeed is the discovery platform and trusted network for mission-driven audio. They help podcast hosts get found and help funders, nonprofits, and brands discover aligned shows. If you want to learn more about GoodFeed and join the waitlist for when it comes out, just go over to goodfeed.co and sign up for that waitlist. All right, so today's conversation is one I have genuinely been looking forward to. I've been running into this woman at community events all over the place, and every time she's just not showing up, she is working. Table set up, information ready, in it for the people. My guest today is Morgan Newman. She is a master's level social worker, a grassroots manager with the American Society Cancer Action Network, and she is a 2-time cervical cancer survivor. And it is that personal experience that became the foundation for everything she does as an advocate. And in this conversation, we get into it all. We talk about what advocacy actually looks like at a personal level, the community level, and the systems level. We get into the importance of building trust before you open your mouth in a new community. We talk about coalition building, what it's good for, why silo work keeps happening, and how to stop recreating the wheel. We also get real about the hard days, burnout, compassion fatigue, funding disappearing, and how you keep going when advocacy isn't feeling glamorous. And one thing Morgan said that I think about now a lot, the very first form of advocacy is advocating for yourself. And I really, really love that. Now, whether you're deep in this work or you've been thinking about getting started, this episode may be for you. So let's get into it. Hello, everybody. Thank you for listening to the Healthy Project podcast. I'm your host, Corey Dion Lewis. And today I got the homie. It's always good to connect with people doing good work in the community.
Thank you.
Morgan Newman is here. Morgan, thank you so much for being on the podcast. It's funny, when we first connected, I feel like I've been watching you from afar. Like, okay, good, you're doing great, you're doing cool. And I would see you out in the community a lot. Like almost everywhere I was at, you were either at a table or like you were out here doing the work. And it was finally great to like connect with you, learn more about your story and like your expertise of, advocacy on the front lines of advocacy. Yeah. It's been really, really cool.
Yeah, thanks for having me. And likewise, seeing you from afar sometimes, multiple events in 1 week. And it's finally good to be able to sit down and have a conversation.
Yeah. And, the one thing I'm excited about, Morgan, to talk to you is I know you really, you're just not at an event. Like everybody can go to an event. But when we think about advocacy work, especially someone within public health, doing population health strategies and things like that, the advocacy piece we talk about, but I'm not going to act like I know how to start with, what does advocacy really look like? From someone that this is the work that you do in your social work background, because you're a master's of social work, right?
I am.
Like, shout out to my social workers out here doing work.
Social work month.
Is it social work month?
It is.
Oh, yeah. This is meant to be today.
I know.
This is meant to be. So tell me, what is the start of advocacy? Like, when you think of advocacy work, like, where does your mind go?
For me, I am, to make it personal, I am a cervical cancer survivor. I've been through it twice. And so advocacy started for me when it came to getting answers that I needed in order to survive what I was facing. And so as a young person going through a really serious illness, it was something that I had to learn, and I'm still learning. And that's the thing. Advocacy is a continuum. It's not just one thing. It looks different for so many people. And so you can do advocacy from a personal level, you can do it at a community level, and you could do it at, let's say, a macro level where you're creating systems change. So there's so many different levels that you can achieve advocacy.
Yeah, absolutely. And I would argue that to create that system level change, it has to start at the ground, which is some of the hardest work because you're trying to get community buy-in and things like that. What does that look like? Like, how do you immerse yourself in the community to be able to start to get that buy-in? Like, what, you know what I mean? Does that make sense?
Yeah. I see where you're going, and I think a lot of it has to do with building trust. You need to be invested in what you're doing and your ultimate goal of what your advocacy looks like. I've done a lot of advocacy within like cervical cancer, the cancer community in general, but to me, it's starting with building trust, getting to know who the leaders are in the community, and really building rapport. And from there, you can really cultivate a great relationship and working towards that hopefully shared goal that you're working towards. You know?
It sounds like a lot of work.
It is. It is.
And I know that is. I know that it is. But in my mind, I think everything you're saying, which one, advocacy for one specific thing, like some of the strategies is good for any type of advocacy, right? So that's why I think it's really cool that you're on. But like getting community buy-in, getting the community leaders, because sometimes from the little bit of advocacy that I've done or tried to do, the community leaders that I think were the leaders are not the ones I need to be talking to.
Yeah.
And it's just, so then it's trying to find them, and then they're kind of skeptical, and it's like, oh man, and then sometimes you're going into communities where you don't live.
Yep, and that's a challenge.
That is a challenge.
It's a challenge.
How do you get through that barrier? Like someone who's trying to get into advocacy work, and I know every single person listening or watching this has had that challenge.
Yeah.
Going into a community where they don't live and then trying to get buy-in. Tell us what to do.
Well, you have an opportunity to partner with reputable organizations. If that's not your bag and you want to do it, as an individual advocate, start by like going out and attending community events, learn about the community, be there to listen. You're not there to talk at people. I think that's what we get so caught up in, and we lack communication or connection. I'm mixing up my C words here. For me, I've been very fortunate, even as a cancer survivor. I've been involved with organizations that have provided me training. But as a social worker, I'm looking at it as trauma-informed practice where, maybe the language I use is different than what someone else is using. Meeting people where they're at is really important. But also it's not like a one-time thing. It's a relationship that you keep building on.
Right.
And so you need to invest your time into whatever you're doing.
Man.
I hesitate when it comes to like short-term type initiatives where it's great that a team comes in and is able to accomplish something, but there needs to be like a long-term, maybe train the community type of model. That way sustainability can happen.
Yeah, 100%. Something that I have noticed or conversations that I've heard or seen, or I've seen myself personally is, organization comes in, there's funds for a project, funds go away, project goes away.
Yeah.
Right? And it's a challenge. I know we're in challenging times when it comes to funding. We don't need to go down that road. We know how it is, and communities still need these resources and to be advocated for.
Yeah.
Do you feel like your social work background, do you feel like that prepares you for that type of situation and that type of work? Because to be a social worker, you gotta have a certain kind of heart, right? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's not for everybody.
Right. Like originally, I went to school for dental assisting, and was out in the field for a couple of years. And I'm like, this isn't fulfilling me.
Right.
Like I needed something to speak to my heart, and I think I wanted to go into social work long before I knew it. I just didn't know that it was an option. Yes. So you bring up a good point on feeling prepared through social work training, and yes, I do believe that it did prepare me because social work is about meeting people where they're at and identifying resources even when there aren't. You look towards other partners or other connections that you may have in order to fulfill those, especially at a community level. And it's where those resources may be able to be stretched to some capacity, or how can we create a different way of doing this in order to be sustainable? Are there other ways that we could find funding? Are there anything like that?
Mm-hmm.
So I do feel like social work prepared me as a generalist, practitioner. So I get like a full scope of things, but then my heart was more into like trauma-informed care and nonprofit work, and that's where I ended up. Mm-hmm. So I've had a lot of times where I've learned a new lesson because I thought, oh, this is textbook. Nothing's textbook. Nothing is always like you look for repeatable things in research and programming, and you're going to have variables that just hit you and they're unexpected, and funding is one of those things.
100%. For someone like myself, not even myself, like individuals in public health or in healthcare, sometimes it can be hard to know where to start to advocate.
Yeah.
Because there is so much going on within, when you look at the social drivers of health and things like that, it's like, well, I want to advocate for it all. Right, yeah. But we know that's just unreal.
You can't do it all.
It's unrealistic. What advice would you give somebody who has never started advocacy, understands there's needs, and there's needs that the people that they're serving are seeing, and things like that? Like, what should they be doing first before they start going out and talking to people and trying to advocate?
Yeah, I think assessing what your values are, first of all, that it's important to know what you're passionate about. Maybe you have a personal experience that fits into that passion. Maybe there's an organization that you've supported or want to support. Mm. And, I think starting with that, again, for me, like I started with an organization or a few organizations, I should say, that really kind of gave me different perspectives of advocacy. And so it's okay to be involved in multiple things, but it's going to wear you out, and you want to prevent yourself from being burnout, from being resentful, from not being able to support even as a volunteer. There's different ways to really assess what you want out of it. And I think having clear goals to begin with is the first step.
No, 100%. And that's just, for me, I'm speaking for myself. I can't speak for anybody else. But like, it's like, man, how do I wrap my mind around everything going on and then trying to say, okay, this is the one thing, and understanding, to your point we talked about earlier, is like, you have a lived experience that like, okay, this is what I want to advocate for, but then there's something else too that's kind of pulling it. It's hard. But I think what gives me kind of like helps me ease my mind is that there are so many, once you get into this work, you see how many people are doing the work that you just don't like. You don't see them out. They're not posting it on social media. Yeah. There's no camera crew following them. They're not saying, "Hey, this is what I did." They're just boots to the ground doing it. And that was kind of like, okay, I don't have to be everywhere because there's a community of advocates doing things.
Yeah, and you really make those connections and start building kind of your own like coalition of advocates of like, hey, maybe I reach out to you. Hey, can you do this event? Oh, right now is really not a great time, but I know exactly who I can connect you with. And that's the power of making those connections and being an advocate and being knowledgeable in what's happening. I went from working on global type issues to coming back to Iowa to really focus at what's happening at home. And as you see, like, cancer splashed everywhere.
Whew.
It is in the headlines. It's been an issue. It continues to be an issue. And there's times where I share my story as me, Morgan, the advocate. There's times where I'm doing my day-to-day job as a Grassroots Manager for the American Cancer Society, Cancer Action Network. And so, like, there's different hats that I wear, and I think that's okay for people to understand too, and to do, that there's all these roles to be filled for advocacy. And starting, even if it's sharing a personal experience, that's starting to do advocacy. Starting to advocate for your own health, by going and setting up your appointment, by asking your doctor questions. That's advocating for yourself.
Right. No, that is so real. That is so real. The first advocacy should be for yourself. It should be. That is so real. I didn't even think.
And your friends, your family, your neighbors. Have a conversation.
100%. You had brought up something just now about coalition building. Tell me the importance of that, because I've been on multiple coalitions, and some that I was like, I don't know why I'm here. Some
yeah, it's a real thing.
I knew I was here, but I know they're important. Can you kind of talk about the importance of building a coalition and how that supports advocacy?
Yeah, so generally you have a goal that you're working towards, and you get your partners, the coalition members involved, and it helps expand your capacity for that goal that you're trying to achieve, but also it reaches people that you may not have reached prior. It broadens credibility of that, oh, this is a serious topic that we're discussing, say cancer, Oh, well, maybe I do care about this. And then you get people involved, and coalitions are really to help share what we may be doing in silos. It really broadens that capacity.
Right. Which happens a lot. It
does.
A lot of silo work happens.
It does.
And so what I'm noticing too is like, sometimes it doesn't happen It's something that happens by accident because we just don't know what everybody else
is.
They're not communicating, right? And I've caught myself being like, oh, I want to do this thing, and be like, okay, there's like 4 other organizations doing the same thing.
Yeah.
So maybe I should just reach out to them and partner with what they're doing.
Yeah.
Instead of trying to build a whole nother thing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And recreating the wheel.
Exactly. That's exactly what I was just going to say is let's not recreate the wheel. Let's use what already exists and partner together in that capacity and make a bigger impact.
Absolutely. What's been the biggest excitement you get around advocacy? Like what is it about advocacy that just kind of just wakes you up in the morning and gets you going?
Oh gosh. That's a good question. I feel like I've always wanted to make an impact somehow. And when I was younger, it was voting. Like I wanted to get involved with the electoral process. And actually, President Obama was like my first candidate that really got me interested. I'm like, wow, this is really cool. And he came and spoke at my high school, and that summer after, I went up to the Warped Tour in Minnesota, and I signed people up to registered people to vote. So that was a way of getting into advocacy, and where I'm not like a super like hardcore, I know everything type of advocate. In that capacity, it did kind of circle back to what I do now, which is cancer policy, you know? So we won't get into that detailed.
It's a whole can of worms another day.
It is. It's a can of worms, but like it led me into that form of advocacy. When it, what else have I done that really kind of drove my spark? I think just hearing, from sitting on a panel talking to med students about what I experienced as a patient was a huge deal to me, and it opened my eyes to possibilities of, wow, if they don't really know, like if people aren't talking or telling them, how do they know? And so like storytelling became part of that passion, and kind of shaped me into who I am as a professional too. But now I get to turn around and help others do that,
100%. I will say this until the day I die, that I understand that there's a world where data and reports and research, it all matters.
It does. It does.
It does. But people will listen to a story way faster than they will read that research paper.
Yeah. It's because you're putting a real face to that number.
100%. 100%. And so that's why for me, a part of what I do with My City, My Health and the Healthy Project, that's my advocacy work, right? Our
absolutely.
Piece of it. Because we're able to sit down with people and tell the story that the data, we're getting it from the data. We're getting it from the data. It's not like we're not making up anything.
Yeah,
yeah. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
But there's something about just being able to sit down with somebody, tell your story, which oh man, this is really happened. It wasn't until my mom was diagnosed with breast cancer and 13% kidney function and almost went blind, where I was like, hey, something's not right.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it starts with somewhere personal, but it does really, that story really does make you want to help others and tell that story to others, to tell why it's so important.
Yeah, it makes you want to learn more and do more that way. And if you're not continuously learning in advocacy, you may not be doing yourself justice. You should be actively learning and growing and expanding on your advocacy. And I don't mean to say that in a way to diminish the personal advocacy levels or
Right.
anything like that. It's more of it's a learning process. You should be learning all the way through life, and if you're not, you should probably reevaluate. Hey, am I setting myself up for failure in this advocacy work or not?
Right. How do you learn? How do you continue to educate yourself on advocacy on a day-to-day? Like, what does that look like for you?
I actually do a lot of going to events. I like to keep up to date with what's happening currently. You know, my space is cancer, and so like I do serve on the board for the Iowa Cancer Consortium. This is not me speaking as a board member, but there is a great resource called the Iowa Cancer Plan, and that helps give a really good snapshot of what's happening in our state, and it's broken up into different sections like survivorship, prevention, all that good stuff. So like you get a really good resource like that. You stay active in committees and work groups. You give back to the community and you make connections and have conversations like this to say, okay, is that data backing up what we're seeing
Right.
in the community?
Hey, community advisory board
Yes.
member right here,
Yep.
Iowa Cancer Consortium. Shout out to the gang over there. You know.
Yeah.
Yes, but you're totally right. You
Yeah.
know, it is not just talking about the Iowa Cancer Consortium, which I'll make sure to have those links in the description
For
of this
sure.
episode so people can check those out and see what they can do there. But going back to what you said about connecting yourself with organizations that are doing good work and doing the right work, you know, that really just skyrockets your education in a way.
It
Like
does.
it gives you the people who are up to date on the research, who are up to date on what's going on, so you can be able to pass that on to your community.
Absolutely.
And know that it's the right. You're saying the right thing. And you're doing what's right for your
Yeah.
people.
Yeah, most of those organizations vet that for you.
Yeah.
They set it up to where it is digestible and that you're able to understand. And if you have questions, you reach out to them, and then you can participate in events that they may hold like let's say Above and Beyond Cancer. You know, another great organization here that I serve on the board of directors and help develop the young adult cancer programming. They're hosting their very first Beyond the Summit, Beyond Cancer Summit.
I know. I got an email
Unlike
about it.
The
Yep.
name, I need to work on the name a little bit. Sorry, guys, if you're listening. But you know,
I'll just beep it out. Well, no.
they're listening to their community and developing a program, and it will cover different areas of survivorship. And so it's another form of advocacy, just coming from an organizational standpoint, and another way to educate, you know, community members and
100%.
caregivers. And it's a great resource.
No, I love that. I love that. You know, Morgan, for anybody listening right now, they've been listening to the conversation and they're like, I heard that woman speak. Now I'm ready to go. Like, I'm fired up, battery in the back.
I hope so.
Let's do it, right? What encouragement would you give them? Because what we didn't talk a whole lot about yet was there's a lot that wakes you up in the morning and that gets you. But then there are days that it's like, it is just not going your way.
Yeah.
Right? What would you say to that person to keep them still motivated and still going on those days where it's not looking, you know, like Skittles and rainbows?
Yeah, I mean, that's the reality of advocacy work in general. There's compassion fatigue, there's burnout, there's maybe something got canceled that you're really looking forward to. it's okay. This is life, and I know that's a very like vanilla way to put it, but it is. You realize like the day to day things change pretty fast, and you have to be able to pivot and be okay with it. But don't let it hold you down. Don't let it hold you there, because what you're doing, your story, your passion, it will overcome those bad days. I've seen it time and time again happen that, you are going to have the bad days with the good days. But for majority of it, the good outweighs the bad.
Right. No, that's good. That's good. I'm going to leave it there because I think that's a great place to stop. Morgan, thank you so much for being here.
Thanks for having me.
Yes. For anybody listening that wants to connect with you, learn more about you, learn more about your work, where can they find you?
I'm on LinkedIn. I would love to connect through LinkedIn. If you're not on there, give me a shout out on, I'll actually have you post my email.
Yeah, we'll do that for sure.
That helps too.
Yes. Well, and I'll make sure I have that in the description of this episode as well so people can connect with you. Morgan, thank you so much for being here. Everybody, thank you so much for listening to the Healthy Project podcast. But before we go, a lot of the work that we do, advocacy work, prevention, public health, it's all about where we live, work, play, and pray. Go to Substack, sign up for the Live, Work, Play, Pray Substack newsletter, where I talk all about population health, advocacy, in those areas of where people are at in their community, and how we can help people improve their health before they even go to the hospital. So again, thank you for listening to the Healthy Project podcast. I'll holler at you next time. And that's a wrap.
All right.